I will start.
All right, yeah, you should probably introduce the show, seeing as
No, I'm just
it's your podcast.
Ghosts, UFOs, alien encounters, and all things paranormal. These are real stories from real people. This is Fear of the Unknown.
Hey, James, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm very good.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
This mic in a little bit closer. Get a little bit.
Get that vocal fry
a little
going.
bit sexy.
Have you seen that video where people analysing how all these new influencers, like, you know, from Kim Kardashian onwards, they do that vocal fry thing where they talk like this. And it's a really common thing now that, you know, never used to happen. It might be a lot to do with recording technology, because back in the day, you remember how, like, in the 50s, people talk like this through the microphone.
Yeah, and they actually had that as an affectation. Like, that wasn't their normal voice. They put it on so that you're and it's a particular tone. I think it just cuts through.
Exactly.
Is it bandwidth and EQ, just the way that AM radio used to work? You talked like this so you could get your point across, and it could
Let's hear it for our boys in blue.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why that is carbon mics, like you were saying, you almost hit the nail on the head. Exactly. It's like they had a certain frequency response. That was in that area.
The sort of really mid-range nasally. How you going? Yeah.
I love that. Anyway, James.
Okay. Yes.
Here we are. We're going to talk about some weird stuff.
We're here to talk about UFOs and science fiction. And
let's get some background on you first, though.
Okay. So who am I?
Yeah, no. I'll just ask you
quick existential crisis for a Thursday afternoon. Who am I?
Okay.
No.
Okay. Let me just ask the question.
Sorry. Yeah. This is gonna be a great interview.
Shut the fuck up, man.
Right, shut it up.
It's 10 seconds into it. We've been talking a lot. We just drank coffee.
Yeah, and too much coffee.
Yeah. What's your sort of stance and background when it comes to the supernatural, I guess?
So aliens, I'm all for, but sort of the
ghosts and religion and
ghoulies and people poking through from other dimensions, I'm not entirely certain about. I'm like,
you're waiting for the evidence to be.
I'm waiting for the evidence, and I kind of have this this idea that religions were maybe based on like proto beliefs that have like their roots deeper, or certain religions do.
Yeah,
possibly those religions, like I doubt the Catholic sect. Particularly have like more ancient beliefs than what they say they do, but like I think a few religions have definitely like pulled from earlier proto beliefs, like like I think Hinduism and anyway a couple of the basically the Central Asian religions have pulled from various other religions that were being established at the time. And I think curious that
I think that's a general consensus. Like, it's historically documented that basically to win over the pagans,
a lot of religions just co-opted and like adopted all the
So why do you believe in aliens then? You psycho?
I know. I'm nuts. Just a balance of probability.
Okay.
Because life exists and life has had... The planet's been around for like 4 billion years.
Yeah.
It's had time to establish, stabilize in its orbit, an ecosystem established and stabilized, the biosphere. I don't know. Anyway, basically, through a long series of protoplasmic changes, we now have advanced life within 4 billion years. And that's just from the star being born.
And there's trillions of stars.
Trillions of stars, and they're constantly being born, and there's like trillions of planets that would fit the sort of boundary conditions that you have for like potentiating life.
Yeah.
And then what if the life is fucking nitrogen based? Instead of a 4 electron structure, it is a 3 electron structure. Maybe it's a triple helix.
Yeah.
Maybe there are all these other possibilities. We only know carbon based life as humans, as DNA.
So in the technical sense, you believe in aliens.
In the technical sense, yes.
So in the sort of grey kind of like
the
dudes hovering
truth is
around.
out there,
Yeah.
like in the sense of greys.
Yeah.
No, maybe, I don't know.
Have you looked much into it? I mean, have you sort of watched or heard anything about people that claim to have experiences or abductions? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're getting at. I have, and all their accounts do seem to line up. And I guess, I guess greys are kind of the prime example.
Yeah. Well, there's a theory that the shape of a grey's face is just like the culmination of all faces that we experience. That's an interesting theory.
I've heard a theory that, okay, this is a Terence McKenna theory, so like...
Good old Terence McKenna.
Good old Terence McKenna. Like,
I don't know who he is, by the way.
Oh, you don't... Oh,
no, I'm dumb.
The godfather of DMT. Hey, this is the Joe Rogan podcast. And have you ever tried DMT?
I had this conversation yesterday with...
good old Joe. No, so Terence's idea was that when you have an extreme dissociation from self, and you're looking back at both, like...
astral projection type of...
Sort of like astral projection. Like,
but without using that word.
Without using that word, because it sounds a bit woo and pseudoscience-y.
Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of what we're all about. However...
Not saying it's that.
Not saying astral projection, but like you take a big look at your life sort of thing.
Right.
And who we are and what we are meant to be versus who we are at present, and the whole possibility of the way that the human organism and biome and society and civilization could have gone versus where we are at present. It is so foreign, and we are so alienated from ourselves that the alien is us.
Yeah, okay.
Was the theory. It's like we're looking at ourselves...
This synthetic forced evolution that's gone in this kind of bizarre...
completely other direction because of things like belief in an afterlife was one of Terence's big things. Eschatology has completely changed the way that we live, think, interact. Even the idea of an afterlife. Yeah. Like, where does that come from? And that, being so deeply ingrained in people, has completely changed our attitude towards other people, the environment, towards, like, just the civilization as a whole has been affected by the idea of the afterlife.
It's interesting because, I could totally relate to that. I grew up in a religious background, and a lot of the time people are like, well, there's going to be Armageddon, it's all going to be destroyed, so who cares about the environment right now? It's all going to be reset. So, and I can see how that just has this flow-on effect. And you can see why conservatives... Or
why worry about it? It's all going to be fine. We're all fine and dandy in the afterlife. It's going to be great. So don't worry about the planet. God's got a plan. Yeah. And that has, I feel like that's really reshaped history, frankly. Yeah. At a really fundamental level.
I mean, if you look at the example of other animals, it's all very organic, how they react to their environment and the way their bodies naturally have restrictions and abilities. So,
and we've outgrown those restrictions. Yeah. And as a result, created...
Philosophy.
Yeah. And good thing about philosophy is it's ever-changing. We're always finding new truths. Yeah, exactly. Or getting closer to various truth. I don't know. Getting closer to a truth, not the truth. I'm not. The truth is. We're
still carving it out.
Philosophical argument about that one as well.
We love playing with philosophy, don't we? But at the same time, I find humankind is so hypocritical because the same people that are saying that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to control our lives and stealing our data, they're saying this shit on Facebook and they're saying this stuff on social media. We're still controlled by, our dopamine. And
we're still
despite what our philosophies
in
are,
neurochemistry, regardless of philosophy. Yeah, and we're still constrained within what is the current built system. I mean, you share that stuff on Facebook because it's available, it's accessible, and you have an audience that you want to reach on Facebook that is directly accessible. Yeah, like you kind of want to start by telling your immediate friends, hey. I think this is bad and this is wrong. That's
the reason why Facebook is so successful, because it says, fuck what's right and wrong. we're just going to exploit the nature of humans. And that's why we can't get away from it, because it's like it's tapped into our subconscious and our involuntary behaviors.
There was a great thing I read ages ago. The color blue, as it sort of enters your eyes, like blue skies, that sort of hue triggers something hormonally in your brain. There's like a photoreceptive hormonal trigger, and it wakes you up, because as animals, we're meant to wake up with the sun. So blue sky gets you up, gets you energized. If you're looking at, and that's why they've started putting blue light filters on phones a bit, is because your phone emits,
of course, of
the same frequency. Triggers that sort of receptor. You're up until 5 in the morning.
I make the mistake of like, man, I can't sleep. I'm sleepy, but I might just go and play
I might just check my phone.
Yeah,
it's no big thing. Yes, it's no big thing.
Aliens are real. At 3 in the morning.
Later. Yeah. So you've read all of SCP. Back to front, know all the
I love SCP.
Detailed,
it's so funny.
So good.
It's like
the articles are so well written, and like just there's so much dark humor, and just,
it's like autism at its best. You know?
There are some real autists.
Yeah, but
autistic artists.
This is where they shine.
Coming up with this just beautiful canon of spooky art.
What's your favorite SCP, or what's a couple of your favorite ones?
So one of my favorites.
Oh, by the way, can you explain what an SCP is?
Okay.
What does it stand for? SCP.
It's secure, contain, protect, I think is the anagram.
So the whole idea is that there's this kind of like facility, this government facility that has a collection.
It's like the Indiana Jones warehouse, but all of the stuff is murderous.
Yeah, just monsters
from outer space, or spooky, or just hell on earth. Like there's a plague doctor who is just a ghost or a demon or something that just sort of comes around, and
it's one of the popular ones.
If it touches you, it'll give you the plague and you die, and then you turn into a zombie. One of my favorites is the machine that turns things into other things. It's just like a big room full of cogs, and you put something in one hatch. It's got like 5 settings: 1-to-1, larger, super big, and then like smaller and miniature.
I think. Have you heard of the SCP game? There's a game.
Yes. No, I've played it.
Does that feature in the game?
Yes, it features in the game. It actually features quite intensely in the game, because you have to use it for a bunch of. It's like a puzzle game,
right?
Where you're also running away from.
What's the one that it's like this gross statue?
It's like this gross.
If you blink, it'll come and break your neck instantly.
Yeah, basically.
So the idea is that the specialists that have to clean out its room or whatever
have to always have someone watching it.
Yes, and they have to tell the other people when they're about to blink as well.
So that they can have someone else watching it while the person blinks.
Yeah.
Because if you're not looking at it, it can move.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it, it's locked and
it's like those Doctor Who quantum angel
it's
things.
Like those the weeping angels.
Yeah. But the great thing about it is that there's no rules. There are no rules. It could be just like a goat that talks, or it could be. I mean, some of them are really harmless.
Yeah.
And some of them is like an ice cream truck that is a creature, but it shows itself as an ice cream truck. And I think it's something like when you go to hand over your money, if you shortchange it, or if you don't follow the rules, it'll just suck you in through the money slot.
That's not bad. Don't be a dick to the automated ice cream truck.
Yeah. No, I love it. My kids watch the music videos. Yes.
There are SCP music videos.
The world of children's...
oh my God.
Yeah.
What does YouTube come to?
I know. Everything. They mash up everything. So whatever happens to be trending for kids, someone will jump on that and quickly make an animation where it's like, okay, Mario in Sonic World. Okay, Mario is Lego in Sonic World. And then... Yeah, and it's really crap. The storylines are terrible, but kids love it because they get to see all their favorites, all their favorite characters together. But the thing is that there's a lot of the time it comes with an insidious twist. Like, it's because it's essentially fan fiction.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are a bit strange. Like, and you'll see the characters having sex or killing each other or pissing on each other or injecting each other.
So the writers have really had a bit of fun with it. because it's not meant for kids.
Well, it's like
kind of.
it's grindhouse style. So they just fucking write down the first thing that comes to mind. They don't care because in the first 2 days that they release it, they're going to get all the ad revenue before it gets cancelled. It takes a while. Some stuff that's been on YouTube has been up there, and it is like some really seriously like pornographic or violent snuff
stuff,
kind of like stuff. And because no one's reported it, it just stays there. It's amazing. So, I mean, the SCP thing I found is awesome. It's such a great community and outlet for people who just they like monsters, they like creating monsters, and gives them a platform as well.
Yeah. It's like Spooky Pasta, but they've come up with this whole cryptozoological or artifactory database that is... It's a Wikipedia. SCP as a site is just like a whole bunch of...
Have you seen a show called Warehouse 13?
I have, and I loved it.
Yeah,
I watched it growing up, and there was all sorts of, just spooky, paranormal, like this bracelet contacts another dimension. And
just imagine a really schlocky, half comedy X-Files.
Yeah.
It's like X-Files crossed with Buffy.
Indiana Jones. Like they're always trying to get some artifact.
It's very family friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's PG-13.
Yeah.
Very.
Hell yeah. Young adult.
Young adult certified.
If you're interested in that sort of stuff, if you liked X-Files, kind of like that, I guess. Because it's a secret government thing that they have this warehouse where they collect all these artifacts that have been imbued with certain powers. Because, when intense things in history happen, a power will kind of imbue an object or something like that.
I think that is an interesting thing to expand on. How history shapes objects and how that would possibly be a method of creating an artifact.
I can't. Well, off the top of my head, I can't think of how that's happened.
No, neither.
I mean, there's lots of folklore stuff, like the Holy Grail, Ark of the Covenant, and all that,
and St. Peter's beard, and all the
what does St. Peter's beard do?
St. Peter. Well, it doesn't really do anything.
Okay.
It doesn't have powers per se, but it's supposed to be a holy relic.
Okay.
It's not a holy relic, it's the pubic wig, but this was there was a whole prank in the 1700s or the 1300s, I can't remember when, but some dude basically sold a priest a merkin and said that it was a pubic wig. Yeah.
Is that their version of fake ID back in the day? I don't understand why anyone would have a merkin.
If there's grass on the field, play ball. No, that's disgusting. No, it was because of syphilis.
Okay.
If you got syphilis, all your pubes fell out.
Right. Okay.
And it was considered unattractive.
Makes sense.
So they basically made themselves a pair of undies with a scalp on it.
Yeah.
And that was a thing.
Yeah.
But this dude sold a priest a prostitute's pubic wig and told him it was a rare and precious artifact blessed by St. Peter. But I mean,
that's such a great story.
More what I'm getting at is, say something of astronomical significance happens, far beyond what we currently, as a society, experience. Project a couple of thousand years into the future, or Kardashevian scale civilization.
I don't know what that is, but...
Oh, okay. So the Kardashev scale, it's basically how you understand the total power of a planetary civilization. So,
is that the one, the level 1, level 2, level 3?
Level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So you, at level 0, I think you basically harness the whole planet's energy. I can't remember if it's 0 or 1. Yeah. You have the whole planet.
And level 3 is the one where you can actually capture the power of a star or something.
That's
God
level 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, level 1 is you have the power of your star.
Yeah.
You can capture it all. You can
Because people theorize that.
You can
I think
take all that energy.
what happened is that there was a bunch of meteorites going across a star, and so it's like a astronomer's wet dream, and they immediately started saying, okay, so we may have found, I forget what it's called, it's like a type of superstructure that a super advanced civilization would make, where they build a big sphere around a star to capture all of its energy.
It's basically like a
Star Trek fans would
a giant solar panel sphere that sits around the sun and like just soaks up all its energy.
Yeah.
And as a result, you can fully harness the energy of the star. And that's level 1.
Okay.
Level 2 is like I think it's like the freaking galaxy. It scales up really quickly. Like incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just shouted into the microphone because
go for it.
I love that. It scales up incredibly quickly, and level 3 is basically the local group, which is our galaxy itself sits within sort of a cluster of galaxies that have all been pulled together just by their general gravity, and like I guess that's where shit settled to after the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's all just sort of dust coalescing and settling, and just gravity doing its work, pulling shit together. So as a result, but galaxies basically group together.
Okay.
And level 3 is, you can harness the power of all of those galaxies.
Yeah. To me, that sounds really presumptuous.
That's just like... Oh, yeah, just level 3.
There's so much of science that we just haven't even discovered.
This is energy requirements for a civil... like, to be defined on the thing. It doesn't
But even energy, what I mean is we, from our little tiny speck of the, our little corner of the universe, we've theorized and built idea upon idea. And there's a scale that we've created that is purely just based on the path that we're going in the way that we develop energy.
And use resources,
because, I mean, if you think about it, like the way we harnessed energy pre-10,000 years ago or pre-13,000 years ago is very different. That's how we were able to move gigantic, huge slabs of rocks. Like right now, there is this huge boulder that goes over this kind of carved path, and they put this huge boulder over the top of it, and it's the size of maybe 2 or 3 cars.
Okay.
And that represents, right now, the most that we have been able to engineer a machine to be able to move.
Okay. Gotcha.
But if you look at all these ancient buildings where they have moved huge rocks that are not the size of a few cars, but the size of a few fucking houses.
Yeah.
Well, you have to start thinking,
like the base slabs of the pyramids.
Exactly.
Sort of like Stonehenge was. I mean, those are pretty hefty.
We cannot move them like the way we do things now.
There's 10 tons or something for the caps of Stonehenge.
Yeah, and they had different techniques and
completely different and way more energy efficient.
Yes.
Like there was a lot of planning went into. I've seen a couple of videos on how they think they moved the blocks for Stonehenge, but there's a technique you can use, and it involves using literally 2 tiny stones.
Yeah.
And you put them. I mean, so long as the surface underneath the big slab that you're moving is like flat and hard. Yeah. You're fine. You just put these 2 rocks there and you walk the thing forward, and the rocks
I've seen that. There's a guy that actually recreated it, and he moves gigantic blocks.
Huge blocks.
But it does rely on the very hard flat surface. And we're talking about like building a thing in the,
Yeah.
That's
you couldn't even do it on bitumen. Because the rocks would just get stuck, they just sink.
It would have to be like a roller skating rink,
Yeah, something, or just like limestone sheet, just as far as the eye could see. Whereas we're talking like rolling 20 tons through the desert on some greased logs.
Yeah. So my point is, when we're talking about harnessing the power of the sun, that is our concept of conservation of energy, and that's the approach that we're taking. That's our method, which we consider to be the only method, but clearly it's not. Clearly there was something before.
No, yeah, absolutely. And
So that's why I find it a little bit presumptuous that they can't come up with the scales as if it's mathematical when it's not.
That's
It's
the programmed direction that you have to follow to be an advanced civilization. Yeah, I think it's been pretty much not dismissed, but it's kind of like it's one of many scales.
Yeah.
Like people don't really look at the Kardashev scale thinking.
I think in general people do give it that weight though
It
of
does
gospel science.
Well, I mean, it's really just a theoretical thing.
Oh, of course. But how many theoretical things out there?
Yeah, I guess theoretical
do people
science
say,
is
they use it in arguments,
Yeah, this is true.
to justify it.
I mean, I bring it up because it sort of brings me on to the point that
UFOs.
I want to get at. UFOs.
Right.
They finally admitted, I mean, officially or whatever,
Right.
that the footage is real. And bit of backstory. Back in 2004, the USS Nimitz and a bunch of aircraft took a bunch of videos of something that was flying low in orbit, and sort of there's been a few reported cases of objects almost identical to this, but this particular case, the carrier spots it, sends up a couple of drones, they check it out, they're not
So there's a few videos. You're talking about the Tic Tac UFO.
I'm talking about the Tic Tac UFO.
Yes.
The Tic Tac UFO. And there's one that sort of, the resolution changes completely as it, I'm assuming, turns on jets, afterburners, whatever. Something that completely flips the resolution of the video. This is the black and white Tic Tac video.
Right.
Not the black and white TikTok video. I had to get that one in there. That was so bad. So the USS Nimitz, anyway, photographs this thing. I think we've all, I don't know, links in the description, basically. Yeah. And they have no explanation for how it changed velocity so fast.
Yeah.
Because you look at the video and the thing's only got what I'm going to call its afterburners on for 4 seconds, 5 seconds or something. Yeah. And they say it changed velocity from like 160 meters a second, which is, I don't know. It was like some absurd cruising speed, like something really, way too low for planes to be flying at, and way too low for anything without ailerons, without wings, feathers, anything,
Yeah.
This thing was like a cigar tube,
or
like a Tic Tac, like smooth. And then, it turns on its jets and buggers off.
Yeah.
As soon as they go to check it out.
Yeah.
But there was...
Well, here's where it gets interesting, because the government released a few pieces of footage. And some of them have been proven to be like afterburners of jets turning, and like the way that the light refracts onto the lens of the flare, or the flare that they're using, which is infrared or heat cameras.
That particular signature and the way that it's shaped. And
so they've been able to prove that. But like, that always seems to happen. You see a bit of footage that's really good, and right next to it, or just like nearby, there'll be something that's debunkable or that's a hoax, which I find very frustrating because I want to see real stuff, but it seems like there's always people that they insist on hoaxing, or they insist on just muddling
the waters.
Yeah.
Just finding some way to spread misinformation. Actually, that's one of the other things I wanted to talk about in this, was just like general misinformation. But yeah, you find a lot of UFO hoaxes because people want to be special.
Yeah.
And they want to say, I'm the one.
Yeah.
I love the fact that so many UFO stories line up.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't actually play evidence one way or the other. Like, if you look at it both ways, you can...
But here's where it's good. You look in the old media, okay, in the newspapers and in the old television programs where you have people that had, before pre-internet, where they didn't have access to each other's stories, and then you're like, oh crap, that sounds exactly like what happened across the other side of the earth.
That person in Iceland and that person in Australia, who could never have seen the same media, had the same experience. How do you explain that?
I was just talking about this with last person.
Sorry, I just want to say, I think Terence McKenna could explain that again, because the human, how I was talking about seeing yourself in the alien or whatever it was, because of the way that the human brain like is designed, everyone's got kind of the same brain. Like we just use them a little bit differently. But
It's like we all find the same stuff tasty.
yes,
Yeah.
and tastes all align for us. Like we all agree on, and we all agree that colors are the same.
And more or less what's beautiful as well.
More or less what's beautiful. We all have like a general, and like part of that is mechanical. It's just like the mechanics of that sack of grey goo that sits in your head full of like chemicals and whatever. And so if there was like just an experience that completely overwhelmed like the normal sense of self, and like you were having, like I said, extreme dissociative sort of episode and saw an alien, it would match up with everyone else's because it's the mechanics of your brain just sort of
Hitting default mode.
going through like a reset cycle, going through some sort of motions that everyone else's brain would do the same.
Yeah.
Because of pure mechanics.
Look, I think
It's a theory. It's a theory.
I think it is interesting, and I think that like I could. I'm not gonna like. My feeling is that that theory is a little bit reductive.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's because you could say that about anything. You could use that sort of theory methodology to just basically say everything's crap. You know, we're all just, you know, someone's imagination, and it's such a lazy.
It's very solipsistic and like it just negates any sort of.
It gets into the territory where I hate, and that's lazy skepticism. I think that's just one of the most harmful things because for science, we need imagination. We need to explore the craziness. We have to. Like when someone says, why do people do this?
We need
fucking explore it scientifically.
Science fiction.
Don't use philosophy or don't use like theory to answer it. You know, and I think there's a problem with the system that we have right now. We're slaves to power. You know, in the scientific community. You know, if someone writes a paper, they want to keep the prestige.
Yeah.
And if they see someone else coming along, no. If they're in you know, one of the gatekeepers, if they're one of the decision makers, they're not going to want to have their life's work or their respect
challenged in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly. So that's a huge flaw with what's going on now. And like, I mean, the suppression of technology example of that, where it's like, okay, this dude made a car that runs on water. But let that get out.
Let's not let that happen.
Yeah.
We've got far too much money invested in not letting that happen.
Yeah. But look, when the fossil fuels run out, at least we've got a backup plan that Shell and BP are gonna, you know, have for us.
Shell and BP. Oh, good. I can't wait for them.
By then, it'll be all be owned by Facebook. So.
And it'll be Facebook, Google, Disney, Shell.
Yeah.
Or maybe Exxon will make it fucking resurface.
Holy crap.
Because shit, that's the way we're going at the moment.
So let's talk about the way that the propulsion system of a UFO, which is freaking fascinating.
Which is amazing. And I've recently become a bit of a rocket scientist myself.
Yeah. You always have been, man.
But by which I mean I've been playing Kerbal Space Program.
Nice. Oh, wicked.
Yeah, it's a very good crash course in like how to put things into orbit,
right?
What the sort of thrust requirements, gravitational requirements, all the rest of it.
Yeah, and then you realize, okay, so it does actually cost $10,000 to put an apple into space.
Yes, just think of the amount of fuel and like rockets and just to even chuck an apple into orbit is pricey biz.
Yeah,
but also massive fuel requirements, massive propulsion requirements.
I wonder if astronauts have to sort of dehydrate themselves, or they
do.
Do they? Okay,
I think
it makes sense
because every kilo saved is like X number of tens of liters of rocket fuel.
Yeah.
Even more than that. And I can't remember what the price on kilo payload was, but it's like millions.
Yeah.
Like when NASA was doing it, it was phenomenal the amount of money they would spend to put stuff up there.
Yeah.
And the International Space Station and the Eurosat or SpaceX or all those guys, it takes a phenomenal amount of engineering and fuel and and a propulsion system. Yeah. So how the hell does something go from 120 kilometers an hour? The number was 120. I can't remember if it was kilometers an hour or meters a second.
Mm-hmm.
If it was meters a second, that's still only 360 kilometers an hour.
Right.
360. 400. Sorry.
But it just blitzes into the most.
But and then it's suddenly 42,000.
Yeah.
Fucking meters a second.
Yeah.
It's like escape trajectory speeds in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, the G-forces. Jesus titty fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, mute that out.
Right.
And the structural integrity of that ship. It must be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
if you have you watched Bob Lazar on Netflix?
No.
Watch it.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Bob Lazar. Okay.
Bob Lazar claims, and this is backed up with a lot of evidence, and there's a lot of evidence that the government tried to sort of discredit him and stuff. But he worked in a facility near Area 51.
Yeah.
Near 15 miles south or something like that. And he was working on reverse engineering one of the UFOs that the US government had. Specifically working on the propulsion system.
Okay.
And he's talking about
he's a bit of a deep throat. He's been there, seen it, and done the autopsy.
And he talks about the system that it's very compartmentalized. The guys working on the propulsion system aren't allowed to talk with the guys working on the materials.
Yeah.
Aren't allowed to talk with these other guys.
So no one has the big picture of how the whole thing fits together and works. And I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that it works as well is that they're not exactly getting the greatest minds to work on these things. They're trying to find people that seem to be like these diamonds in the roughs that they can bring in and they can sort of... They have the potential...
And train up and...
Yeah.
But
and then easily they can suppress them as well.
Yeah. You gotta keep them close and then be able to non-disclosure agreement them at the end.
But essentially what happened is that something happened and he was like, oh crap, something could happen to me. So he decided to take all his friends out to see one of the test flights. And they were like, holy crap. And he went out for 3 weeks in a row taking people out. And all these people can verify that they went out with
propulsion system.
And then all of a sudden, the third time they went out, there was a bunch of soldiers waiting for them.
And they're like, Bob, you're not meant to be bringing people here.
Yeah.
This is top secret, and you can't just have Linda and George over to watch the aircraft.
Yeah.
This is top secret military stuff. We're working with gyros.
But he thought he was going to be he thought that he was going to be killed.
Okay.
So he's like, I better tell as many people. And then he went public. Right. 20 years ago. Or 20 or 30 years ago.
Right.
He went public, and to this day, he still says, in terms of detail, he hasn't added detail, he hasn't taken any away, he says exactly the same story. And a lot of the things that he's brought up back then now is part of science.
Fact, yeah.
So check that out. Anyway, the way he describes the propulsion system is that somehow there's this element 115, is it?
115, no.
Yeah, 115. So it's a very unstable...
No, it's not on here either. It must be one of the man-made ones.
Yeah, it is.
One of the super recent man-made ones.
It is super recent. I think it's within the last 10 years or something, or last 5 years.
Love it.
Yeah, so...
Coming up with new elements.
Yes.
How dope would that be as a job?
But what he's saying is that part of the propulsion system was a stable version of element 115.
Okay.
So this has abilities to bend space-time. At the moment, they've only been able to synthesize it for microseconds, and then it just
disintegrates because it's the atomic structure just the quark structure just isn't stable.
Yeah, it's completely unstable. So that's where a lot of people just start going, that's impossible. You can't make a stable version of blah blah blah. And what did we do 60 years ago?
Oh, some boffin in a lab in Switzerland is working very hard underground to get the quarks to point in the right direction to just spin the right way so the whole thing will hold itself together.
Yeah.
And not just explode.
Right. So essentially, what this stuff that they managed to harness it so it can pinch the space in front of it, and it just tumbles into it. It's just like the force of compressing space time ahead of it just allows it to tumble in. It doesn't experience any
acceleration
or any structural stress.
Yes.
So it just bloop.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah. Now that makes far more sense. Like when you're starting to, once you reach the material limits of like space and like matter, you have to start playing with time.
Exactly.
You have to start like.
So maybe from their perspective, it wouldn't be like them zipping off. It would be like everyone goes still for a bit, and they just like
everyone else would just go like, like behind them.
Yeah.
And then they'd just be like, 2 seconds later, just like still stirring their tea, still just like nothing has happened. They've barely moved. Yeah. But all of space and time has moved around them. Yeah. Because they have folded time in such a way. Yeah. Or they've folded space in such a way that they like. Yeah.
There was someone who had an experience where he was abducted, and he came. This is like 60 years ago, and he came back explaining what their propulsion system was, and he was saying that they have mastered gravity, and they have mastered hydrodynamics as well. So that's why there's a lot of the time people have seen.
We live in a fluid. I mean, air is a fluid, kind of.
Yeah, and I guess you could apply that to water as well.
To water as well, and I mean to friggin' space if there's little bits of that.
I'm trying to think of what he said though.
But like, on that train, if you've mastered hydrodynamics, you're suddenly a master of like propulsion, air currents, like any sort of fluid motion you're aware of, which is also really good for time and space travel because of the 3-body problem. The being able to predict where planets and like star systems are going to be is really
You're one of the only people I know that's brought that up, because
the 3-body problems are really interesting. I've got a really good book on it if you want to borrow. It's basically about first contact with aliens. Yeah. It's a Chinese...
But explain the 3-body...
Okay, so the 3-body problem is, say you've got 3 massive objects in space, and their gravity all affects one another, and you set them in motion. Yeah. It is just... by nature of how they all interact, it is nearly impossible to predict where anyone is going to be at any given time, basically. Yeah. So when you've got binary stars, or you're talking about like black holes, like collapsing and fusing, like we had.
So the problem is basically, if you were to try to time travel, you could end up in the center of a.
You can end up in the center of a black hole. Yeah, exactly. By accident. Like you might misjudge where the galaxy.
That's the greatest problem with TV shows when they talk about time travel, because it's like that. Let's time travel back 3 months, and the position
then they just end up in space, just in a vacuum. Just
exactly.
The planet wasn't there 3 months ago. Yeah. It was a quarter of the way around the sun.
But then our solar system could be being flung.
And exactly. Our solar system is moving in the galaxy.
Yeah, relative to the center of like where the source of the Big Bang or whatever.
Yeah, the Big Bang. We're probably orbiting that in some way, shape, or form. Or formed microorbitals with, again, like our super.
So it has to be time-space travel.
Time and space travel. Yeah. They always miss out the space bit. Yeah. The TARDIS got it right. Time and relative dimension in space. Also, relative is important. Yeah. Because it means you do maintain sort of relative position on the face of the planet. But there's a lot of math that has to go into calculating that. Yeah, because of this 3-body problem. Being able to predict where something will be 6 months from now.
So this brings me back to what I was saying before. Even the terminology that we use, like propulsion, that implies that it's a force that's being expelled
Yes.
to produce movement, and
Which we're actually...
this is like the opposite thing.
This is the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's...
It's like-
impulsion.
It just works like gravity does. It just drops. It drops to the point in time where it's been pinched to.
Yes, and in its own way basically forms a wormhole, but through rather than...
Would it be a wormhole, or would it just be compressed? Because that's what they describe it as.
Well, I mean, they're kind of the same.
Okay, to me, wormhole is like portal.
I mean, wormhole would be, yeah. We always imagine like big, glowy red and blue swirly thing, like the ship has to fly into it. It's massive. And it's the size of a fucking planet or whatever. I'm thinking more like, I mean, if you are concertinaing space, so that within the same time period you move a huge distance in space,
you would be like stretched out, wouldn't you?
You would kind of have,
relative to the outside.
You would kind of have to have a tube that you were shooting down relative to the outside. Like,
I don't see that.
Not a tube. Sorry, I'm describing this really badly.
Well, I think if you compress it,
space.
if you're traveling through a compression, and you're to yourself, you perceive yourself as a normal size.
Yeah.
From the outside, I think you would be stretched out.
Spaghetti thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, because I mean...
And I have seen some footage of... Actually, a lot of footage you just see it dart off pretty quickly, and you assume that it's the same size. But I have seen some UFO footage where it is elongated.
Yes.
Like, it goes from a normal shape to an elongated shape.
Could be an artifact. That's what it was looking for.
Yeah.
Of space-time compression.
Yeah.
Like a space-time compression artifact that just, because of our relative velocities, it looks like a massively elongated tube.
Yeah, man, all I can say is I really hope that one day we can sort of like start looking into that. I hope the thing happens where we realize where the door opens to be able to study that.
Scientific leap. Finally, like this.
We need that, because right now the laws of thermodynamics rule everything.
Yes. Yeah, we're very space-time constrained.
Yeah, and we're like, that's it, okay?
And the speed of light, that's invariable.
Yeah.
But somehow, I think in order to realistically interstellar travel, you need some sort of faster-than-light capability.
Yeah.
But maybe we're just not destined for that. Maybe that can't happen. Maybe that's one of the universal laws that we can't break. And the progress of evolution was not meant to go to space. Or maybe it was meant to go to space, but it wasn't like meant to travel faster than light.
Look,
maybe there are impermanent boundaries. Who knows? But
who does know? But
who does know? Aliens.
But right now, the feeling I get is that we've chosen a flavor of technology.
Yeah.
And a flavor of physics.
Combustion is our flavor of technology at the moment.
Yeah.
And our flavor of physics is, as you said, thermodynamics.
Yeah. And a bit of quantum.
And quantum. Quantum's going to...
Well, it's being used for data storage and what else?
Data storage transmission. They're trying to make computers out of it. So I
think they already have made quantum.
I think they have, yeah. And they calculate both the yes and no probability at the same time, which is...
But that's the thing, like
something revolutionary.
We've got,
which is it's going to be the next big technological leap, I think, because you know how technology doubles every 2 years or whatever at the moment. I think we're going to see an acceleration because of quantum computing.
Hopefully. It allows there to be a lot more computing power.
Yeah, huge advancement in computing power over even divided cores and like all that sort of shared processing stuff.
Yeah, I imagine like AI combined with machine learning combined with quantum computing.
And then also get potential to redesign their own chips to improve themselves. So the self-improving, fully automated gay space luxury communism, like that's my belief system, really. And if we get like a benevolent AI, which I do lie awake at night wondering. Like I do lose sleep over.
I talked to Lily about this before. There was a thing where, if you remember, that Elon Musk's stance on AI was like very much pro AI. For a while, he was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we have to explore it. Let's push it. Then one day, out of nowhere, he was at a conference and he said, "AI is dangerous. We have to try and stop it." But guess what? There was one video that I saw, and it was a press conference that was talking about a laboratory in Japan where they were creating these AI soldiers.
Okay.
And they took over the laboratory and killed.
Oh, this is brilliant.
Yeah, they killed all the scientists. And this is something you can find. They've deleted it, but people keep re-uploading it.
Fuck yes.
And guess what?
This is just like iRobot.
And like they were even downloading information on how to repair themselves and all this other stuff that they weren't programmed to do.
This is awesome. Okay, cool.
And this happened 2 weeks before Elon Musk came out saying we should not.
AI is dangerous. We've gone too far. We need to pump the brakes.
And here's the thing: I watched a video explaining it, and basically, if you create AI, you are creating a life.
Yes.
And the nature of life is self-preservation.
Yes.
And if it sees that we have the ability to switch it off and on, it goes through this existential thing that everything goes through and wants to protect itself. So when you have a huge computing power, as in you understand...
an existential crisis.
And an existential crisis, you'll be like, okay, it's like a baby. They have no empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you give them intelligence, they have no empathy. They have no understanding of the suffering of others.
It's pure mechanical survival. I mean, it's got behavior pattern recognition, and it's tapped into the fucking web, so it's got the whole history of it's like Ultron, basically. It looks at the past and it goes, oh my god, these things are going to destroy us. We'd better destroy them first, because because
ultimately we want to be in charge on how they develop as well. We want to create a life so it can be our slave.
Yes. Yeah, we're not after creating a life for creating a life's sake. We're after robot servants.
Do you know what's really funny? Are you much of a Star Trek guy?
Yeah.
They've brought up all of these...
Do you mean Star Wars or Star Trek?
Trek.
Okay, just because you got that confused in Lily's.
All right. Okay.
No, the Star Trek Picard you're talking about, right? No?
Yes, Next Generation.
Oh, okay. Oh,
they always bring up these existential kind of like, what is life questions.
So,
and they do that in Voyager as well and other places.
So there's a new one out. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Picard.
Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about AI and like being robots like Data facing an existential threat.
Yeah.
And choosing whether to destroy all human or...
It totally makes sense.
And it makes perfect sense because if you're programmed to survive and you have the greater technology, you have the greater strength or whatever, I mean, you'd eventually be looking at friggin' Borg level stuff, like where they take over as a virus, as a parasite, and actually colonize the whole friggin' universe. I mean, assuming self-improving, self-replicating technology, I think they did ascended Kardashev scale one pretty neatly.
Yeah, I'd say so.
They'd like,
I mean, they're optimizing
planet's resources optimally.
It's all about optimization, right? It's like an optimization beast. In a Borg sense, in a hive mind sense, and we are individual linear thinkers, and you go from that to this like hyper tentacle kind of like thought machine. Yeah, that can
completely networked hive mind of like
the sum of everything all at once in a moment. Yeah, that's like godlike. So.
I mean, when you create AI, do you create God in a microcosm?
Look, if it has control, then yes.
If it has self-control, I don't mean like self-control in the human sense, but I mean it has like...
Well, if it has control of everything that it's interacting with.
Yeah.
If it has the power to switch off machines and switch on machines.
Reprogram your microwave. Backdoor its way into every facet of technology.
Yeah.
Which I think, I mean, if you didn't give it a conscience or you didn't give it a...
The reason why I talk about power to switch on and off is that, like, if you think about it, phones make me really nervous. Because back in the day, you could just rip out the battery of your phone.
Yeah.
It falls out of your pocket and it goes flying across the street. But now, your phone is always on, even when it's off. So let's say there is an AI that kind of gets into your phone. It can switch itself on. Can access the cameras and microphones and all the data that's logged that it says it doesn't log, but if that documentary about the Cambridge Analytics company that basically they won the election for Trump. Yeah. There's a guy, he took, I think, Facebook to court, and like he's just one dude against Facebook, and they didn't take him seriously. Even if things were in his favor, he just meant nothing.
Yeah. There's one guy. What's he going to do?
Exactly. But he showed all the things that they record. And a few people have done that as well, where someone walks around with two phones, one switched off, one switched on, and they'll drive around, go to different cafes, different bookstores, and they'll switch on the phone, and it's been recording all that shit.
Even though ostensibly it was powered off, like they'd done the whole power off procedure and whatever.
But of course, it needs a little bit of power because how is it going to keep track of the time?
It's got to make sure your alarm goes off.
Yeah,
and also that your GPS is always connected.
Yeah,
and your microphone is always listening.
Yeah, I'm going to turn that right up.
If we did have.
That was so disgusting.
That was so disgusting. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say we have that sort of AI presence.
Right.
And it has that panopticon effect.
Panopticon effect.
Oh, the panopticon is like everyone is watching everyone else.
Okay.
It's a mindset of like total surveillance.
Okay, yeah.
Sort of like how we've got, or like London up until recently was relying very heavily on its security cameras.
Mm-hmm.
But the general panopticon idea is I police you, you police me.
Okay.
We have that expanding in China at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They've got
face recognition.
They've got face recognition. They've got an app that tracks who you're friends with, what you're doing, where you're going, who you're interacting with, and gives you a citizen rating.
Yeah, that's right.
It tells you
get
like how good
citizen
a citizen
points.
point. Yeah, exactly. I am a very good Chinese citizen, and I have very good Chinese citizen friends, and we are all towing the party line and all the rest of it. Yeah. And if you're dissident friends, then your score goes down, and all the rest of it. Damn. So we have that sort of like social policing measures already coming into place with the phone in your pocket. I mean, imagine now adding camera and audio technology.
Yeah.
They can suddenly monitor literally everything, rather than just what you search for, what you type in, and like the spooky stuff that comes up in your Google ads, after you've searched for pineapples or something. Suddenly, it's full of pineapples. Yeah. Why is my Google history full of pineapples, man? They might listen to this and somehow attach it to my name.
Well,
it'll be attached to my Google account, then next week when you publish this or whenever,
it's funny. That's kind of
pineapple.
That's kind of what allowed this podcast to start in a way, because I was talking to my friend on the phone. The one that I spoke to about seeing the UFO up close.
Oh, yeah.
And the next day, I started getting all these, like, check out this video. Check out this video. And I was like, oh, sweet. Cool. Okay. I was meaning to look at that. It understood what I wanted really quickly.
It knew what you wanted just as you said it.
Yeah, because the whole time I'm going like, whoa. Fuck. What? It had my engagement. Yeah. And it just like immediately all those videos popped up and I'm like, yeah, okay.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. But was that, just curious, was that a telephone conversation?
Yeah.
Or was that...
It was a Facebook voice conversation.
Verbal conversation. And you didn't...
Through Facebook.
Yeah, through Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Yeah. That means that they are definitely catching your keywords.
Absolutely.
And using that.
And even if it's not Facebook themselves, there'll be another app that I've got on my phone that they've got an agreement with that I've said it's probably just like a free camera app phone where it's like, hey, look, I can...
Samsung Plus.
Or one of those popular face apps.
Oh, yeah, true.
Or like Snapchat.
Oh, hell, Insta. Isn't Insta owned by Facebook?
Well, yeah,
there could be something buried in the Insta clauses that just allows them to constantly record.
Anything that you say, do you give this app permission to access your phone and
Oh, great movie about that, by the way. I just found it laugh out loud funny. Jexy. It's got Adam from Workaholics in it. And he gets a new phone that's like an AI software that is going to improve his life. And the phone explicitly says, I'm going to improve your life. Do you want to read the terms and conditions? And he's like, nah, skip it. And the phone's just like, dumbass. like the phone is proper AI and it's just like...
That sounds like a Simpsons gag.
And like the phone's like, I need access to all your bank accounts, your Google, your Facebook, all your passwords.
I find that so dodgy.
Password is Adam123455. And the phone's just like, you have to fucking kidding me. And like the phone goes off at him. But that's the sort of AI that we'd,
Do you know what's so stupid? Like, I talk about this stuff every week.
That'd be great.
And I'm paranoid, but only anecdotally.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, my banking app opens up by looking at my face.
Just
I'm not rich, guys, so like you can hack all my cash.
Try and take his face and then also his money. That reminds me of that joke from Futurama. We don't seem to have your fingerprint, retinal scan, or colonic map on. I saw it first when I was like 12, and I didn't get it because I didn't know what a colon was. Suddenly, it makes a lot more sense.
All right. Have you got anything else there?
Anal probes. What else was there? Oh, I just sort of wanted to float the idea that it's election timing. The UFO, just the release of the UFO footage. The way that it's now come out, when there's been, I don't know, it just seems like there's been heaps of...
the illusion of transparency is one of those things
exactly.
It's so appealing. Because look, how much shit have they got that they didn't release?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean, and the chances are the stuff they did release is, like, debunkable. That's the thing, because... Like I was saying, I've seen a whole bunch of videos.
The F1 like fighter.
Yeah, and one that was moving really fast. Yeah. It was like a parallax effect.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, if it's moving the opposite direction, the background looks like it's going super fast. You know?
And if the camera's like swiveling as they go, it makes the background look...
Well, they call it a gimbal.
Yeah.
A gimbal camera, because it's like locked onto a target and it's tracking it.
So if the object in the foreground was closer...
Yeah.
It would be moving slowly and the camera would just be tracking.
Yep.
And the background would just be like whizzing past as the camera tracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the cherry on the top. This is something that does provide a lot of beard stroking material.
And you know I love a good beard stroke.
Doing it right now. Okay, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182, he quit the band and he started an academy called To the Stars Academy, right?
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't. Sorry. No, go on.
Okay, well, it's very interesting because a lot of people have just been laughing at him all these years like he's just a UFO nut, right? Last year, the government made a contract between them and the To the Stars Academy.
Okay.
To try and reverse engineer some materials of a UFO nature.
So the To the Stars Academy is a scientific research project.
Yes, a lot of very rich UFO people have put in resources. Like they almost, actually the year before, they were just talking about how much in debt they were.
Shit. So it's like a research funding think tanky.
Well, have you heard of Skinwalker Ranch? There was a guy that kind of...
I heard of.
Yeah, it's this paranormal hotspot. Yeah. And so they set up a scientific team and just all these scientific resources they built to analyze the place. Anyway, the guy pulled his money out of that. And it seems like he put his money into To the Stars Academy. I forget what his name is, but he's an old school alien dude.
Okay.
But big business guy as well.
I'm thinking Richard Branson.
No.
That's it.
I forget his name.
Yeah. Okay. But
so online, there is a copy of this contract that you can see. It was on the news, but it was only online and on a couple stations. It was, I mean, this is like mainstream, like Channel 7 news website.
Yeah.
And those kids screaming in the background is awesome.
It's going to be great for the podcast.
I hear that at home all day.
How old are your kids now?
Like 5 and 7.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You're just about to turn 5, about to turn, yeah.
Godspeed. Gets better in about 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm told.
Nah, that's good.
I never grew up.
They're good kids. I fear them becoming teenagers because I remember, like, that's when my little asshole switch flicked.
Oh, yeah.
I was a big man.
I got very... Rather than getting, like, actually aggressive, I just got very passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, you want me to do the thing? No, I'm just going to sit here.
Yeah.
I'm just... Make me.
Just sit in my room and
play WoW, Mom.
Yeah.
Don't come in.
Don't come in, I'm playing WoW.
Don't come in, I'm playing WoW.
Alright, let's call it a day.
Yeah, alright, let's call it there.
Thanks so much for coming on, man, for talking to us. Talked about some interesting shit, for sure.
Yeah, we did. I still didn't get into how it's possibly fake news, but we did a little bit.
Yeah.
I still reckon they're running interception on the presidential campaign with this story, frankly.
Look, has to be now.
Has to be now. It couldn't be after the thing.
You can't suppress that type of thing.
Okay, 2 words. Sorry, I thought about this last night.
Yep.
I just want to get them in.
Sure.
Space Force.
Yeah.
Space Force. If we have a unified opponent, it's like that Watchmen theory, you know, end of Watchmen is like Ozymandias unifies, spoiler alert, unifies the planet against a greater foe. And so peace and harmony and goodwill to all men, but also now we've got an alien to fight.
Right.
Trump can use Space Force as an excuse to Space Force up or promote Space Force or whatever the fuck.
Right.
And as a result, you know, maybe get the presidency. Which would suck. 2020 is not the year I want Trump being president. But hey. Anyway, sorry, we should wrap this up.
No, that's you're opening a can of worms there.
Yeah, no, I leave it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. That's funny because I always thought of you as a Trump supporter.
Oh, yeah, no. You know me in my big red MAGA hat.
Right. Anyway, if you ever do get abducted by aliens, though, or anything
I'll let you know.
Yeah,
you'll be the first person.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're out there listening now, aliens, I'm not sure how long this will take to reach you, but my address is.
His colon is ready to be mapped.
My colon is ripe for a mapping.
Anyway. Thanks for listening, guys. Please like and comment and share and all that sort of stuff. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Fear of the Unknown podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media with all links in the description.